Welcome to another edition of Living Legacies. I'm Tom Morrow, your host, and tonight we have a special guest who has affected a lot of lives here in Oceanside over the years. To introduce him as former supervisor John McDonald would not be telling the whole story, because John McDonald was one of the most popular school teachers and college administrators the city of Oceanside's ever had. Welcome, John, to the show.
Nice to be here, Tom.
We appreciate you spending your time with us, and you've been in Oceanside. You told me this is your 60th year.
Yesterday I celebrated the day that I arrived in Oceanside in 1939. Is that 60 years? I think
that's 60 years. I can guarantee you it's 60 years. You were born and raised in Colorado, or you were born in Colorado?
Born in Colorado, and started school in Escondido. I didn't tell you that when we were talking about this show, but I was about 5 years old. My dad was a Baptist minister for a short time in Escondido. Mm-hmm. Then we went to the desert. In Thermal, California, the hottest town in the United States.
You probably thought you died and gone to heaven when you came to Oceanside.
That's exactly what I've told people. It was such a clean little town then, and I just couldn't believe it, how beautiful it was.
How big was Oceanside?
Well, the boundaries at that time were, southern boundary was Wisconsin Street, northern boundary 8th Street, western boundary of the ocean, and eastern boundary
Horn Street?
Horn Street, yeah.
Right where the high school
Where the high school is, yeah.
About, what, 5,000 people?
3,500.
3,500?
Yeah, 3,500 people, yeah.
And you went to work, you were 19 years old, just out of high school?
I was 19 and went to school at Oceanside Junior College and finished there, and then I went to Humboldt State.
Where did you?
Well, I went in the Navy first.
Well, let's talk about Oceanside and what you did here when you first got here.
Yeah.
You worked for Martin's Market?
I worked for Martin's Market, which is now the American Travel building down on Cleveland Street, still there.
Yeah, Ranch and Coast, I think, is a realty, has an office on the corner there. And
I guess
Dave Hadsel
had that.
He owns that whole building.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked for, in the summertime, I worked for $1 a day, 7 days a week, till 9 o'clock on Saturday night, and I was lucky to have a job.
Yeah, those were tough times.
Yeah.
Tell me about your dad. He was a native. He was born in Scotland.
My dad was born in a little town called Croy, which is 16 miles north of Inverness, and he came to the United States when he was about 20 years old. Mm-hmm. He landed in Boston with his father, and then they brought the family over and they settled in Kearney, New Jersey, which was a Scottish settlement for a long time. How he got to Colorado to marry my mother, who was a nurse at the time, I don't have really any knowledge. And how he came to California.
He didn't talk about that to him.
No, I kind of think they may have had a little family fight, and he left home to see other parts of the world. I don't know.
Fighting? I've never heard of such a thing.
Scots fight all the time. But he was became the Baptist minister here in Oceanside in 1941 and died here in 1947.
He was self-educated.
Yeah, he apparently didn't have any formal education beyond about the 4th grade, but he was a terrific student and got his ability to be a minister at night school. And
popular minister?
He had a library that would show anybody.
Do you have a pretty good following in the church?
Oh yeah.
Was he hellfire and brimstone, or was?
Yeah, he was pretty hellfire and brimstone. As a matter of fact, I sort of passively walked away from the church for quite a while because I couldn't stand the pressure, of what he was preaching. But I loved him, and he's a great man. And my mom was a nurse here for a while. In fact, she nursed at the old hospital up on Horn Street.
Now, you went to college at Oceanside Carlsbad Junior College.
No, it was Oceanside Junior College at that time.
Oh, it wasn't. It didn't. Okay.
No, and it was started as an adjunct to the high school, and the authority to start it was done by an election, postcard election, which is never been done, I don't think, before.
Well, isn't that something new that they just suggested here in the last couple of years?
I know.
It was done way back then, huh?
Yeah, in 1948, 47, something like that.
Graduated from...
No, 1934, excuse me. Yeah, because Palomar started in 1948.
Well, let's stop a minute. I remember you telling me you made a trek across country to the World Series.
Two other guys, I played baseball at the college, and two guys on the team one day in March said, why don't we go to the World Series? We knew we were going to have to go in the service because World War II was just about ready to blow. So we worked all summer and saved up $100, and we fixed up an old 1931 Model A Ford, and we went to New York, and we were first at the Yankee Stadium for the 1941 World Series.
You drove the 31 Ford all the way across.
All the way back. We were gone 6 weeks on $100.
Did you have any trouble?
Not that I remember. We had an extra tire. I don't think we ever had a flat tire.
No, we don't.
I can remember buying gas in Chicago for 12 cents a gallon. I can remember that. We had a lot of relatives on the way. So
you were among the first to stand in line for tickets?
2.5 days we stood in line and we were in the New York Daily News and all of them. And they don't do that much anymore.
No.
It was a big thing.
Yeah, it was a big thing.
Yeah.
U.S. Navy came calling.
Yeah, I joined the Navy in January after Pearl Harbor, January the 2nd, and got out in 1995. And I spent most of my time, went to the islands with the same flotilla that took the Marines to Guadalcanal in August of 42.
You were a radioman.
I was a radioman, yeah. We started radio stations. Never assigned to a ship.
I was going to say you were.
I get very seasick.
you did shore duty all the time.
Yeah.
But some of that shore duty was not exactly glamorous.
No, well, actually, in Fiji Islands, we were there 18 months.
That was
it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
And Fiji was supposed to be the last defensive post if the Japanese came down the islands and got that far. But then we were assigned to go up to Bougainville to establish a station on the beach after the Marines landed, and that was kind of interesting. We didn't ever get really bombed or shot at, but...
Where were you when the war ended?
I was in Oceanside, in my folks' backyard.
But you were stationed, what, in San Diego?
When I came back from overseas, I was stationed at the Naval Air Station in San Diego, so I was close to home. I wasn't married then, so I was home quite a bit.
Now, after the war's over, you get out of the Navy. You had some encouragement in the junior college.
There was a history prof at the college, at Oceanside College, that was really a mentor, and Dr. Bailey, Ken Bailey. And while I was overseas all the time, he'd write me a letter, maybe 5 or 6 page letter, about what was going on, and encouraged me to think about going to school after I got out. I almost stayed in the Navy as a career because I was very close to being a chief petty officer, and it was a good life. I wasn't married, and I enjoyed what I was doing. But came back and went up, and he went to Humboldt in this meantime.
Humboldt State?
Humboldt State. And so he encouraged me to come to Humboldt.
Where is Humboldt State?
In Eureka. Well, no, in Arcata, California, which
way
is
up in the northern part of the state.
7 miles of, yeah, and a beautiful country. And I was up there I was only going to stay 1 semester, and I stayed through 1950 and got my master's degree. And met my wife.
Met Gloria?
Gloria, yeah, who was a native up there. And when I asked her to marry me, the first thing she said, "I'll marry you if you'll take me someplace where the sun shines."
You had just the spot.
So we came back to Oceanside in 1949.
In 49, you both got teaching jobs here?
Yeah, our first teaching job, hers was in Eureka, and mine was at Citrus College. And that was before we got married, and so we saw each other 3 times after we got engaged and got married in 1949. And then when you came
to Oceanside, what was your first job here?
I was a teacher, a 9th grade teacher of social studies, and some of my students included Herb Meyer, who's been coaching football in Oceanside for 41 years or something like that. And C.R. Roberts, who was a big professional football player.
Yeah, he went on to great fame.
Yeah, he did.
What kind of grades did Herb get?
Good grades. Herb's a very smart, very
good
smart
student,
guy.
eh?
Oh, yeah, and very well organized. That's why he's a good football coach.
Did he play football?
Yeah, Herb played football. When he was a freshman, he was about 5'4", but a real wiry little competitor.
Mm-hmm.
And as I recall, and this may be part fantasy, I don't know, but as I recall, C.R. Roberts was about 190 pounds when he was a freshman football player, and Herb was his quarterback. And every once in a while, C.R. would forget what his assignment was, and Herb would go and give him a big kick in the rear. And so, well, but that's the way Herb has been all his life. He's a very, very competitive guy, but a great guy.
Now you became dean of students?
I was a vice principal for 3 years, and that gave me the knowledge that that's what I didn't want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I didn't want to deal with kids who were having problems every day.
You were kind of the heavy.
I was a guy, and I meet people now every once in a while, boys or men now, say, "You remember when you kicked me out of school?" And I was like, "No, I don't remember that." But then I went to UCLA for my doctorate. We took a year's leave of absence, 2 years leave of absence, and my wife taught at Culver City. And then when I was up there, I met another mentor, Dr. Johnson, who was big in the junior college movement. And that's when I got interested in going into the community college. And so when we wanted to come back to Oceanside after 2 years, there was a job open, a baseball coaching job and a teaching job in the college. And that's how I got back into college. So I was a teacher for 2 years.
How long were you the coach?
Well, I coached baseball for almost 10 years. Was a graduate student coach at Humboldt, and then I coached at Citrus, and then I coached at Oceanside High School, and then I coached at Oceanside Carlsbad College.
If memory serves you, you helped a couple of our local fellows begin their professional ladder.
Well, actually, they did it themselves, but Chris Chambliss was an example of a chap who was at the right place at the right time.
But didn't you arrange for a scout to come down and take a look at him?
Yeah, I was a good friend of the baseball coach at UCLA, and one day when I was president of college, at Miracosta, he called me on the telephone late in the afternoon and said, "I'm in San Diego, and I'm scouting a third baseman at San Diego City College. Do you have anybody up there that can play first base?" I says, "Yeah, we have a good first baseman up here." So he said, "I'll stop by and have a look." So he came up and went out to practice, and Chris he said to Chris, "Go up and hit a few, let me see your swing." He hit 7 over the right field fence, and he was signed
right on the spot, huh?
Yeah, and when he went to UCLA, he was the home run hitting leader in the nation. He was signed by Cleveland out of UCLA. He didn't finish the 4 years there, and they assigned him to I think Wichita minor league club, and he was rookie of the year there, and he was rookie of the year at Cleveland. And
he played 13 years in the majors.
Yeah,
and he's now today coach.
He's a batting coach for the Yankees.
Yeah.
He was in Atlanta for a while. And
Willie Buchanan told me one time that if it wasn't for John McDonald, I would never have gotten an education.
Well, he never told me that.
But he Willie said you were responsible for getting him into college and on down to San Diego State.
Yeah, well, Willie,
of course, the rest is history.
Willie was a great football player in high school, and we had a great football team the year that he and several others came, and to Miracosta. In fact, we played in the state championship playoffs. And I guess just because maybe we chatted about going on, Coryell, I think, came to San Diego State about the same time.
Don Coryell.
And he came up and recruited Willie. And
But you just happened to kind of maybe just put people together.
Well, that's my job. That was my job. It still is.
Well, we've gotten a little bit ahead of ourselves, but you, make a long story short, you ended up as president of the college, and that college voted to build a new campus.
Yeah, that was a very exciting period because the land that we wanted to buy was owned by Sonia Henney, and she didn't want to sell it. So we had to go into condemnation, and we had an opportunity to visit her in her home in Beverly. She had 3 homes with Beverly Hills, and I tried very hard to get her to donate the land, and we'd name the college for her or in some way honor her. But no, she had other aspirations because they were trying to build an art center in Oslo, Norway. She was, and her husband, and they were going to trade the land here for some land over there, and we had to interrupt that. But then we just had a great time building the college and saw it come out of the ground. And
for a while, you were the only president of a community college that had graduated from their own community college.
That's what they told me, and I don't know how many there are now, but I think there was one chap at Riverside City College who graduated from Riverside. Yeah, I liked Oceanside so well. I had a lot of opportunities, not a lot, but I had several opportunities to go to other colleges, and I added up the pluses and minuses, and my wife kept saying, "What do you want to go and take over somebody else's problems for? You've got a good school here." But we were a very small college.
Now, how big was Maricosta when you opened the doors up there?
Well, I probably had 600 day students and maybe 2,000.
This is in
part-time.
1964?
Yeah, yes.
Today it's got about 10,000.
At least. When you count all the programs, it's 15,000.
Didn't you tell me that the night before classes opened, you had to get the street paved, Bernard?
When the bond issue was passed, the high school needed the space where the college was, across the street from where the high school was. And when it was passed on my birthday in 1961. Then the high school, we had split districts, and the high school wanted the space. So we said we will get out of the buildings downtown in September of 64, 3 or something like that. 2 years to build the whole thing. We weren't finished.
You didn't have the campus done.
No. And so the night before, we were to have students come to the campus up on the hill. They paved the road. That was very close.
The asphalt was still a little bit damp the next morning.
Yeah, right. And the last building I was involved in was building the library. Building the theater up there, and then I retired in 1982. So it's still going well.
Yeah, you thought you retired. You then ran for city council.
Yeah, there was a little turmoil in the city then, and there was a...
John, I'm shocked.
Well,
turmoil in Oceanside?
We haven't gone to a recall election lately, and there was one, and 2 of the council members were recalled, and then a third one retired. So it was an open seat, and I was too young to not do anything. Yeah. So I did run and was elected, and then opportunity for an open seat not an open seat, contested seat for the Board of Supervisors.
Well, you kind of got the political bug then, didn't you? I mean, you kind of liked elected life?
It's a very rewarding experience in lots of ways, but you have to maintain your poise because it's very seductive too.
Yeah.
And in the sense that people tell you how great you are, and if you start to believe that, you end up getting in big trouble.
You especially don't believe your own press.
Yeah, right. So, but I enjoyed it, and I didn't have to run the second time. I had no opposition, and I told people when I ran the first time I would only spend 8 years there, and fulfilled all of those commitments.
Well, you, as a city council member, was there any any significant accomplishments that the council had done during that 4-year period?
Well, one of the things that we had done was we built a new pier.
Mm-hmm.
We tore down the old Strand buildings that were housed a lot of not too nice people, and built all those condos down on the beach. That came at that time, and then we were involved deeply in the planning of the city hall.
Mm-hmm. The new city hall.
I wasn't there when it was dedicated, but we
you were there.
I was there just for.
At the
in
beginning.
fact, they were nice and put my name on the sign as
well, that's
a contributor
good.
too.
But at the county, you had quite a bit of. There was a lot of accomplishment at the county for those 8 years you were on the board.
I think, though, one thing that we tried to do is to represent the people and stay close to the people. Borrego Springs was one of the parts of the district way down in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first went down there, they made me feel like a king because they had never been represented before. Because they only had 1,700 votes, and they didn't carry a lot of political weight. But I represented them and then was involved in the final stages of the term, my second term, in getting the new courthouse in Vista completed. Mm-hmm. Although I wasn't there at the time of the completion. Bill Horn took over.
New jail and
I broke ground for the new jail, although I didn't have a lot to do with getting the new jail. Paul Eckert had worked that out. Yeah. So it was a very challenging learning experience for me.
You had a lot of help along the way, of course, and it was Victor Matura, who just died recently. He was one that Victor, he was one of your supporters.
Yeah, Victor. I met Victor on the steps of the post office in Rancho Santa Fe. Mm-hmm. Victor had a golf cart that looked like a little fire engine, and he was quite a golfer. And one day when I was handing out campaign leaflets, Victor Matura drove up in his golf cart, and we started talking. And he said, "I think I'll vote for you." And so I have a picture of him that shows a little note from him. He says, I voted for you. I would vote for you 4 or 5 times if I could, or something like that. And I kept that as a kind of a treasure.
I think everybody's got a Victor Mature story that knew him. I knew him briefly. Interviewed him, and he was an individual.
Really,
There's no one like him.
But I only saw him a couple of times, and when he sent me the picture, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. You retired in 95. 95.
Actually, the term ended in January 95, and then just before that, I lost my wife, Gloria. But then God was good to me, and I have another wife that's a beautiful lady.
And your wife's name is
Aileen.
Aileen, right? You have 3 very successful sons.
I give that credit to the mom, not me.
Well, I know Kurt. I don't know the other 2, but Kurt is vice president at Hearst Corporation in New York, which is the number 2 guy of the news divisions, or is he running the news division?
Well, actually, he's the vice president of the division. They have a president of that division that he worked with in San Antonio, and that's how he made the connection with Hearst. Worked down there for 2 years with the Hearst newspaper.
Eric lives in...
Eric is in Salt Lake. He's in the construction industry, and he likes Salt Lake. And Michael is Thousand Oaks, and he's the president now of JBL, which is the largest maker of sound equipment, I guess, in the world. I don't know, something like that.
And he's a graduate of KOCT. He learned. He started right at this in this studio or in this station.
In the station. It was down on Hill Street, near where the old Blade was.
But that's where he decided this is what he wanted to do for a living.
Yeah. He volunteered. He was 13 years old, and he volunteered to help. And he got so involved in it that when he went to San Diego State, he got involved with the Greek theater there, and they had a lot of productions, musical productions, and he went into that for a while.
Didn't he do the sound for the Republican National Convention? Didn't you tell me?
Yeah, I guess that was one of them. He also did the sound for the inauguration when Reagan was inaugurated the last time. And he was on the Olympic Games, opening and closing ceremonies at the '84 Olympic Games. So for a young guy, he's really had some experiences.
Well,
and Bill Sinatra, frankly, who was on the staff here.
He's our chief engineer here at KOC.
He just poured things into Mike when he was a kid, and he's never forgotten that.
John, it's been a pleasure. You and I know each other from Rotary Club, and I know that's another one of your favorite organizations, and I know there's a lot more to talk about, but there's only so much time in a 30-minute program.
Well, I enjoy this because it makes me recall things in my past that I enjoyed too.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
I'm Tom Morrow. This has been Living Legacies. I hope you've enjoyed this one of our Oceanside Living Legacies. This program is made possible through the generous underwriting grants of Hatter Williams and Pretty Insurance Services of Oceanside, providing North County with complete insurance needs for more than half a century. The TriQuest Corporation, providing quality office and manufacturing space in Oceanside. McCabe's Bridge Ocean View Restaurant for fine dining while overlooking the harbor and the Pacific Ocean. And the North County Times, serving all of North County with complete local daily news coverage and internet services.